So to finish things off, we need to add exterior finishes now. You should have already added materials to the window frame and the window glass, and all the other interior finishes should be in place. So we need two new materials for the exterior. First is roof shingles red, and the second is stucco, both of which of course are in your PDF file. Let's start with the shingles and look at the settings that I've made. Now, as always, feel free to change any of these settings as you think fit. I'm just throwing settings in here which work reasonably well, but you might not like my color schemes or my materials, so again, feel free. So what I'm doing here for a pattern is using a brick pattern. Now this may seem a little odd for a roof, but if you look at the material options, you won't find a shingle pattern at all. So a brick actually works not too badly. So I'm using brick 05, as you can see, and setting it up so it looks a little like shingles. Now I'm using master units and size of 3, and I've locked. Now when I lock it, this Y value will automatically generate itself based upon the size of the pattern. So start with 3 and see how it works on your building. You may need to change your rotation to 90 degrees. Again, it depends on which version of MicroStation you're using. Bentley seems to change settings like this quite frequently in the different versions. Everything else is pretty much the same, so we'll let that go. I'm using a red color, and in fact I'm using orange red for my roof tiles, and that comes out of the color patterns here. The settings are pretty straightforward. I've got a slightly different specular color, not very important. There's very little specular action here at all. What I am doing though is adding a bump to this. So the bump is tied to the pattern, and I've got a displacement of 20. Now you'll have to set that by hand, so just swipe it and type the 20 because the slider won't do it for you. So I'm going to apply that now as an attachment, and I've got to attach it to the roof. So we'll select the roof solid, click on the first area, control data point, and control data point. There's my whole roof. What I haven't done is the vertical edge here. I'm not going to bother. If you want to apply a material to that, feel free, but that's normally where the gutter goes, and it doesn't matter at the moment since we're only experimenting with a simple building. Now let's look at the walls and the stucco material. Now I'm using Misty Rose as the color. There is no pattern here at all. You can see it's blank because I only want to use a bump map. And the bump map I'm using is called Cast Bump JPEG. So look for that in the materials. That, as you can see by the preview, gives me a fairly reasonable stucco effect. Using a size of 1 in master units for the moment. Again, this can be changed. Doesn't need to be locked. 1 and 1 is fine. Okay, and that can go. Slight specular color again, which is the same as the main color. Bump, I'm using 15 here. And again, that number depends on how it displays when you render. Okay, let's apply that to the building. So I'll use the same method, attach. So we'll select the walls, data point on that wall, data point on that wall. Now at this point, I should turn it around and do the other two walls, but I won't right now just to save time. So I'll just data point. But you should do the other two walls as well. And while I'm at it, I'm going to stucco the chimney too. So we'll try the chimney, and that just means selecting the whole chimney and data pointing. There's no point trying to do different faces here, simply because this is a single solid projecting inside and outside. If you wanted different materials, you would have to break this up into different elements. We should be fine. Let's do a render here. And I'm going to turn my constructions back on, which puts my exterior camera location on. Let's quickly set up a camera. Data point to the view, set the angle to wide, snap to the top of that line and snap to that. And here we have our view. Let's back off a little bit. Let's throw a fence on. Start Luxology. I'm going to use exterior good. Let's see what happens. There we are, we're finished. Let's move out a little bit. Let's put a more realistic white background on this. And let's play with lighting. Let's drop that down a little bit. Not too bad, but the pinky hasn't really come out very well. Oh well, I'll leave it there and you can experiment. Now notice I have shadows, and that is because I should have mentioned earlier, which is lighting. Solar must be on. This is an exterior view, obviously. And solar position, I have this. I have a fairly low sun angle, and my location is roughly there. So again, experiment with this too. Drag these around to different heights and different angles and see how it renders with those different parameters. There we have the exteriors done, the interiors are ready to go, and we can start looking at some more specific views and rendering options in the next video series. But there's one more item I want to show you in the next video.